So as always, guys, we're going to post this on YouTube afterwards. It's February 27th, 2022. So next thing, get started. Like always, if you guys have any questions, just hit up the chat and we'll answer them at some point in the session.
Yeah, awesome. So we're gonna kick it off with DXY as we normally do. This is kind of a special week. We do have some economic news. Obviously, there's news of war developing. We have this recent huge gap. I mean, so this is obviously something to talk about. So we're gonna get to that in a second. But let's just approach this from a TA perspective first. That's what we know best. We're gonna see how things are lining up on the higher time frames and work our way down and see if we can't make some sense of all this mayhem, right? So overall, we're on the daily time frame here. This is what I normally do. For my strategy, this just works best for me. I like grabbing the overall trend on the daily time frame and then dropping to the 4-hour, looking for trade scenarios and keeping an open mind, right? Marking up a bullish scenario and a bearish scenario. Now this is again just DXY, so I'm not actually trading this. I'm just looking for the direction of the US dollar because it makes up for a lot of percent of the trade throughout the market. When there's a lot of movement in the dollar, you'll see that kind of ripple through the market, especially through the majors. There'll be all kinds of correlations. Okay, so we're on the daily. Overall, we can see we're pretty much bullish here, right? We're seeing higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, clear characteristics of a bullish trend. And even right now, we're very close to a new high and already at a key resistance, 97.25. So with that information, let's go to the 4-hour and see what this time frame is doing, right? What is price action doing on the 4-hour? Because again, for how I'm looking at price action for my strategy, for me, the 4-hour highlights movement through the week the best. So this is where I'm going to find trade setups. And then when I see them start to play out or get close to execution, I'll drop to the 1-hour and 30-minute and actually take the trade. Okay, so what I'm seeing on the 4-hour for this week is that price action was falling, right? So last week we had rallied to, resistance, came right back down, huge volume, all speculatively driven, no real basis for it. No structure, right? Just up, then down, crazy volume. So I was expecting it before this crazy candle formed here. I was looking for simply structure, right? That's what we always want to spot. So the next higher low would have been great at 96.35. Would have been really nice to see price action kind of curve out here, form, consolidate, form some sort of pattern, whatever, and then give us some good setups to then enter on and start targeting or start considering this bullish again and just see that kind of execute. Instead, we just had a huge gap. So let's go to the 1-hour, take a look at that, and then we'll come back and talk about the bearish scenario. So this is a huge gap, right? So what you can do at times like this is kind of pretend that price action is filled in here, just so you can get a better, more clear understanding of what's happening. And you could even throw some like guides on here. So like if you want to try and identify a pattern or something, we can see that this is obviously resistance. Just make sure this is squared up here. Okay, and then we could even do something like this, kind of highlight what price action's been doing recently. And if this were a pattern, right, this would be an expanding pattern. You could see that volume is obviously increasing, right? So from this point, we're either going to shoot back down, start to consolidate, see kind of a ripsaw between these two zones. We don't know yet, but this is what we would like to see ideally to consider this, healthy price action, normal structure, and then catch that continuation to the upside. So for right now, we're obviously at a high point. So waiting for this to pull back. If it does continue through this zone, that's a whole nother deal. That'll push us back to the higher time frame where we could kind of have a discussion as to, if price action breaks 97.25, we're looking for higher lows above that on the 4-hour to really confirm that structure, right? And to really say that, okay, this is going to move higher. The dollar is crazy bullish. We're seeing a lot of interest come into the dollar, for whatever reasons. We don't need all the fundamentals. We could just see that here through the TA, and then we would be looking for support at 97.28 once we're above. So that's one way it could go, right? If this is to turn around and things kind of settle and the dollar comes back to where it was, we're looking for lower highs below 96.35. Okay, this is kind of the key zone. As long as we're above it, we're kind of in this area looking for more reactions to the upside. But if we break below 96.35, we could be just looking towards downward movement, normal stuff, normal structure like we have been seeing. Okay, but crazy times. I mean, it's we have TA, but then when there are such strong fundamental factors going on, it makes it difficult. But there is one thing that has always kind of held true is that when there is crazy economic news, jump up timeframes, and usually it's kind of just accelerating the overall trend on the higher time frames. So that's where the, you know, the dailies really helped aid in that type of stuff. Okay, so that's DXY. But yeah, we'll see. It's going to be an interesting week for sure. So let's move over to AU. So we're going to do the same thing, daily time frame. What's price action been doing? Okay, overall, we've been, you know, pretty much bearish, as you guys can see. Price action been moving lower, right? We're getting lower lows, lower highs, you know, clear key level here at 0.27 or 0.72. Price action broke that. We've been retesting this level, rejecting this level for quite a while. But we haven't quite broken it yet, but it does seem to be in a nice, strong bullish channel. Overall, I'm going to consider this bearish, but on the bullish, but on the, wait, I'm sorry. No, overall bearish on the daily, right? We're moving down. We're looking for a rejection from 0.72, but on the 4 hour, we're looking more bullish, right? We have a nice, strong channel here, good structure. Okay, and now we're just waiting for some sort of reaction here at 0.72, right? Either some sort of break and higher low above, which we haven't really seen yet. I mean, this was a nice move. This was a great trade opportunity, but now we're essentially looking for the same thing. Wouldn't mind some consolidation, similar formation to this. We can actually grab the bars pattern and see, just for the sake of measurement here, right? Something like this would be acceptable. This would be a great trade opportunity in here, you know, after we can confirm, you know, higher low above 0.72. So just waiting for that, you know, but we're looking good. I mean, obviously a huge gap as well, but we're gonna pretend that there's price action there just so we can see things more clearly. You don't want to get too confused by things like that. You know, even if it is a huge gap, right? We still have things to go by. You know, just scale up, go to a higher time frame. I mean, if you're a scalper, you're probably going to be, you know, struggling right now just because things are going to look so much more exaggerated on the lower time frames. But I'm telling you, it'll calm down the more you scroll out. Okay, just look at things on more of a macro perspective during huge economic events like this. Okay, so we're looking for that break, waiting for that higher low, trying to just confirm this continuation. Could be a good trade opportunity here on AU. Let me actually size this up too. Let's see. Let's see what this would look like. So we're going to target just about 100 pips. Okay, let's bring this up. So at max, our stop loss could be 50 for 100. Pretty good, well protected as well. We'll be below the key zone, below this channel at that point. MAs if you're using them. So there'll be a good amount of confirmations. Okay, you could even bring this up a little bit depending on where the higher low actually forms. Could even potentially get a 3-to-1 out of this. So that's the bullish scenario. Just got to wait for that to play out. If this does fail to continue with this bullish channel, look for price action to drop below 0.7145, this zone here, where we've seen it act as support multiple times. And it's kind of like the mid zone for this channel. So this would be a good area to kind of see that transition take place, right? We'll break this higher low or the test of, it, and then we'll get our first lower high, and then we'll enter on that and target major support levels. So that's what we're looking like on AU. And just need to see this kind of play out. Waiting for this crazy volume, this gap. Just need to see something a little bit normal. Okay. So let's go to the daily here on AJ. What's the overall trend? Lately, we've been pretty bullish since so let's just start back here a little bit, and then we'll kind of explain price action as we go. So we saw a bit of ranging here. This was a high volume range, 81.5 is resistance. We saw a huge rally here, failed to form any sort of structure. Price action literally went up, came down, back into the range, and then started pushing up. We kind of fell into this higher range between the weekly and 81.5 instead of 81.5 and 78.8. So we're looking a little more bullish. We are resting right at the weekly, so that's never good for a resistance level, right? If you're seeing a long period of consolidation, that's usually hinting that we're going to break that level or it's weakening. So we'll see. I mean, this is not a good sign for resistance. Definitely hinting at a break. So with the daily trend. So we'll see. But let's see what the 4 hour says. So here on the 4 hour, we're actually in a bit of a range. Let's see on the daily. It looks a little bit choppy now, right? But this will look a little bit more clear, right? A lot of restriction between these two areas. 82.6 failed to really get a lower high below, except here. This was nice break, continuation lower, but after price action fell into this consolidation, this was a fake out. So was this, right? We failed to get a higher low above, failed to get a lower high below. This is a valid range, right? Between a weekly, which is a major level, and then this level here, 82.6. So we know how to play ranges, guys, right? It's very simple. You know, we're waiting for that, either one of these to play out. You know, ideally we can continue bullish because this was a nice transition, right? This was a nice rally, good volume here. We've kind of held that volume too. This is still pretty high volume stuff. So this would be a nice opportunity if we could break above, catch the higher low, and then start targeting resistance levels. This could actually run quite a bit up towards 85. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, this thing actually gapped the whole range on market open, right to there. This was open of the candle, and then it shot up, trying to close the gap, test resistance again. Right, pretty crazy. So if the opposite were to happen, right, if this were to go bearish, what do we need to see happen? Here on the candles, we need to see price action break 82.6, retest, spot some sort of rejection, lower high, and then we can enter short on that. So this is what the short scenario would look like. Okay, about 90, risking about 30. Your max could be about 45 for 90. And I say max because for what I'm applying to my strategy is I won't take a trade unless it's at least 2 to 1. Meaning if I'm risking 1%, I have a chance of 2% reward. Okay, I can only lose 1% at any given time. So that's my max for my rules. Not bad. And again, depending on where this lower high forms, depending on the price action, you could even bring this a little bit lower, maybe even get a 3 to 1 out of it. Okay, there's even more upside potential. If we do break, again, you know, we were talking about 85. So well over 2 to 1 on that as well. But it's kind of a waiting game at this point. I never trade gaps. There's no sense in it. Usually there's crazy spread anyway. So you just got to let the market kind of chill out, which gives us just a little more time to be passive on the weekend. You don't have to get, you know, excited. It's still Sunday. So we'll see how this plays out Monday, right? No rush on that. This is already closed the gap here on UJ. Let's take a look at this on the daily first. Overall, what's price action been doing? And all we need is the trend, right? We've been moving up. Very clear to see. You don't really need to know anything about price action to see that this chart's moving up, right? It's bullish. Okay, and even more so here, we're getting a nice bullish channel. We're attempting to reach prior highs at 116. Let's drop to the lower time frame, see if that's possible. But yeah, we're overall bullish here on UJ. It's in a pretty good position. Again, we were talking about this bullish channel. Here it is. Key zone in the channel is 115. It's very clearly what's resistance here. You know, it's acted as support multiple times. We've been seeing a lot of consolidation, and you know, I say price action's been dancing around a level, meaning there's no real clear direction here, right? There's failed attempts at lower highs below, consolidation above. It's kind of a mess, right? So overall, we've been moving pretty good, moving up pretty good. 115 gave us some struggle here again. We just popped above. You know, now's the opportunity to solidify a higher low. Next point in structure here. This would be really nice to see. Higher low just above 115.35. Just want to see some nice rejection. Obviously, after this volume kind of calms down, and then just see this start to push up again. This could be a really good trade opportunity here on UJ. And again, as things become more uncertain, just from like another fundamental perspective, because it's obviously, you know, the subject right now, is that a lot of people are going to be, you know, flocking to the dollar because it is the safe haven currency, you know, like it's the reserve currency of the world. So when things get kind of uncertain, a lot of dollar strength appears. So just, that's kind of always been a good note. Okay, so upside potential here, well over 2 to 1. Our max would be just about 40 for just over 80. In a good position too. The stop loss would be just about 115. Again, this would depend slightly varying on where the higher low actually forms. If we even get one, this may just rocket towards 116 now and continue with this channel, but we'll see. If this actually is faking out right now and fails to push higher, actually dumps, we need to see that lower high below 115, which we failed to form here. Right, every time we push lower, it failed to give us a lower high. Right, that's not good structure. Same here, failed to do it. And this actually consolidated above, so that's bad as well. And for an extended period of time, there's like 7 dojis in there on the 4 hour. So that's way too long. We need something pretty, you know, pretty quick, something with good conviction, clear structure, break retest, and then we're in on that. We could actually size that up too. Why not? Let's see what that looks like. Entering on the lower high, as we said. Looking to target just about 70 down towards this 114 area. And then our max actually, so this trade wouldn't be as good. So we'd be just around 35 for 70 for a 2-to-1. So it could be good depending, again, if it forms. But this is like, so the way I mark these up too is kind of like what I need to happen ideally according to my rules to enter the trade. So I would consider these perfect scenarios, right? So this would be ideal for us if we saw a higher low just above this level, good conviction candles, good structure, and then we can enter on that with confidence that's going to continue higher. You know, there's a lot of other ways that price action could play out, but I always highlight the most probable, like the scenarios that are most in our favor. So these are them here on UJ this week. Okay, so let's move over to EJ, daily time frame, see where we're at. So this one's a little harder to see direction on because there's been a lot of volume around a range here. So if we just start from the beginning, maybe that we can make this thing a little easier. So 130 as resistance, 129 as support. This was a range here, a lot of fake outs. The line chart does a good job of showing you guys that, right? Failed lower high below, failed lower high below, failed higher low above. Those are fake outs. So this is the range has been respected. Then we saw a nice rally here. Again, failed to form structure the whole way. It just went up, came right back down, back to the range. We kind of consolidated below for a little while. Let's go back to the candle chart. Consolidated below for a little bit, came back up, looked like it was going to be bullish, came back down, up again, down again, right? So it's kind of been a mess. But we are looking more bearish now. You know, the key thing is that we actually are below 130, which is nice because that's really been the level I've looked for the structure to be above or below to, you know, find direction here on the daily. So I'm pretty confident saying that this is pretty bearish right now. And then if we go to the 4-hour, this will kind of clear things up a little bit more as well. So 130, again, keep that in mind. That's the key level. And we're below that. We're actually retesting it, or we were retesting it when I did this analysis. We were. Now it gapped 1,000 pips, right? Look at this. This was 130 pip gap. Crazy. So highlight here is the bearish channel, right? We finally moved below 130. There was some struggle there. Came back up, retested this minor level before finally dumping. Hit 129. Came back up. Now we're retesting 130, or well, it was. Then we gap down, finding ourselves back at 129. So, you know, what we'd like to see is a nice, you know, steady retest of 130, something with not as much volume, maybe some consolidation, nice pattern or something, a nice reversal, or maybe even lower set, lower high, a little more deeper into this range here that we could then catch a short opportunity on. For me, I would like to see this, now that I've seen this gap, I'd like to see it push up, consolidate, slow down a little bit, and then start giving us some lower highs that we can enter on, right? And then areas of interest would be here on this lower high, and then also again on this lower high. Okay, so with that in mind, let's map out the trade. Right, if we were to enter on something here, stop loss above, I would target below 129 even. I would even target down towards the monthly potentially, but we want to at least achieve 1-to-1 by 129. And like we're obviously well above that now, which is good. We could even bring it up to about 80 pips to 80 pips and then target all the way down. So this way, if the trade doesn't play out even, you're still able to protect yourself, move your stop loss to break even, have options, an opportunity to exit the trade or to, you know, skim profit, whatever you do. This would kind of leave you that opportunity. So I'm looking to move lower with this. Again, just need more time on this one as well. You know, we're just seeing gaps across all the pairs. So it's pretty wild stuff. Okay, if this does just, you know, the opposite happens, if this goes bullish, price action rallies like hell off 129, I'm looking for a break above 130 with a nice clear higher low above. And if it followed through with good conviction, you know, nice size candles, you know, I would then consider long opportunities. We'll see. But I'm really not too interested in continuing higher. This is kind of like this is a crazy zone up here. A lot happened with this rally, you know, really not that many zones other than 131. So it's just it's a lot more favorable to just continue short with this, but we'll see. We don't really have a choice, as we all know. But yeah, we'll see. This is closer to happening, so ideally we'll go short. But that's EJ. So let's move over to gold. This is actually going to be the last one that I cover for you guys. And I actually analyze this one on the daily this week as well, because we're seeing a lot happen. I mean, this is crazy wick. Probably one of the biggest wicks I've seen on gold in a long time. I mean, what is this? This is 650 pips. Yeah, it's a good day if you caught the top of that. Geez. So we're on the daily time frame for scale here, just to show you guys what's going on. We're a little bit overextended. This was obviously a very powerful move. We moved through the weekly, through 1870, and then we rejected. What did we actually hit here? Let's see the top. We hit 1974, rejected off 1930, right? Body closure below. And now it's kind of just consolidating a little bit. We're seeing a lot of rejection, a lot of exhaustion, a lot of speculation. So it's hard to say. There's really no structure here. For me, ideally, I want to believe that this is just all speculation. It's just a little overvalued right now, and that when things do simmer down, we'll just see this pull back, to form normal structure to where it should be, come back maybe even to this zone. So I have it kind of curving out at 1930. If we do inch closer to that, see some body closure, I'm expecting more wicks, and then we'll see how price action forms. If we could get the price action to move up a little bit, calm down, spot some 4-hour reversals, maybe, head and shoulders if in a perfect world, something like that, we could start looking at short opportunities. So that would be ideal. But if we just drop now, right, start moving lower now, I'm looking for lower highs below 1870. Then I'll start targeting towards the weekly and so on. But yeah, I had to do this one on the daily because, I mean, the 4-hour, it just kind of blows things up. Like, there's really no trade here. This is all crazy speculation. If anything, this is a range with a crazy fake out. So, it has to be, for me anyway, to feel comfortable. I'm far away from a trade on gold. So the daily time frame does it for me. Puts things into perspective. All right, but that's all I got for you guys. Quick recap. I covered DXY, AU. Let's go to the 4-hour. AJ, UJ, EJ, and gold. And I posted all these in Telegram and Discord. They're live charts, so you guys can play these forward through the week. And yeah, we'll see how these trade paths fare. How accurate they'll be this week. It's gonna be crazy. But yeah, guys, thanks, guys, and it's another week, another analysis.
Cool. So I'm gonna go ahead, share up, guys. If you have questions, just post in the chat. Nick just went over obviously a bunch of analysis for the week, a bunch of different pairs. So I know you guys are on here. So if you have any questions, just post them in the chat. To start, I'm gonna just go with DXY again. So I actually went ahead and cleared my entire chart because going into last week, we were expecting potentially for DXY to go to the downside. If we do kind of think about what last week's analysis was, I'm just gonna come down to the 4-hour time frame. This is pretty much where we were last week. So we were all the way down here, like February 20th is when last week started. And we we're basically either expecting price to break this level right here or break this resistance level that I had marked up here. But as you can see, I've now kind of just cleared my chart because we had so much volume to the upside come in last week. So things are definitely shifting a little bit. So I'm just going to come back onto the weekly time frame and I'm just going to mark a key level on here. So I'm going to zoom out as much as I can. And I'm just going to mark this level right here. Now, the reason I'm putting this here is because I notice we have resistance here, support here. It's very strong. And then if we zoom in a little bit more, we can see we have resistance there. We have support, resistance, all on this area, support all in this area. And then look at this huge drop to the downside. So this is right at about the 97,700, 97,600 area where price had this huge drop to the downside. So we're currently revisiting that zone. As you can see, last week, we had a wick that perfectly touched this area and then it rejected it pretty aggressively. So it actually rejected it. It rejected it by 1.24%, about 110 pips. So obviously that's pretty significant. With that in mind, let's also map something out to the downside. So I'm just going to go ahead zoom out again, and let's see where would be a significant level of support and resistance. We're just going to mark this area right here. The reason I'm putting this one is pretty simple. I see there is a huge level of resistance here, support here, resistance right here, resistance, support, support, and then as you can see here, support. So this is our range. This is what I always do on the weekly time frame. We're just getting our key levels here. And then as you can see, what is the overall trend on this? This thing on the weekly time frame has actually been bullish. So it's been making these higher highs and higher low points. So we're just continuing with this overall bullish trend. The fact that price spiked up last week is just a continuation of this trend on the weekly time frame. Now coming down to the 4 hour, looking at this time frame, we can start to see we were in a bit of a down. We don't want to zoom out too much, right? We want to focus in on where we're at. Just looking at this though, we were in a bit of a downtrend. And then what happened last week, we had this little flip and then price started to consolidate. And this is actually a flag pattern right here. So we had this little channel forming. That's why I was expecting this to actually potentially break this and move back into the support level. But as you can see here, it just took off to the upside. It wicked our resistance right here. So at this point, what are we looking for? It's kind of hard to say. We are expecting more bullish movement on DXY. As you can see, to open the week, already a ton of volume to open the week. Let's just come back up to the weekly. So if this does continue with this weekly trend, it should clear and form new highs at this point. This wick tells me that we probably will see some consolidation all up in this level. So this week we could see a lot of this. Price just kind of consolidating up here. I don't know if it'll drop this far, but consolidation below the resistance, and then it's either going to do a break and continue to the upside, or it's going to continue to the downside. So this is kind of just forecasting what our potential idea is, but based on what we're seeing here, I am expecting a lot of consolidation for this week. But obviously, like Nick mentioned, these macroeconomic events are going to cause a lot of volatility in the market. So if there continues to be obviously a lot of updates around the things going on in Ukraine specifically, the dollar could continue to jump based on those events. So let's take a look at GU first and kind of see what's going on here. So GU opened so far to the downside. So it opened 100 pips to the downside, which does not help us much. But as we're seeing, it's starting to recover a little bit. Coming up to the weekly. So we're going to start up here like we always do. Let's just clear this off so you guys can see. Actually, we'll leave it on. So a weekly time frame, let's just zoom out. As you can see, I have my lower level of support. The reason that this is marked is based on support here, resistance, resistance. You can see all this resistance, support, support. And then as you can see last week, we actually hit a nice wick at this level. So we tested this area and it wicked back. So telling me there's a lot of buyers in this area. And as you can see, price is kind of slowly recovering now. So coming to the 4 hour, I am expecting more downside movement. I'm really expecting this thing to continue to move to the downside, very similar to how it moved the last time it was in this area. So let's just scroll back. Let's zoom out a little bit. So if you look right here, on the higher time frame, it wicked into this area, consolidated, and then continued to fall before it eventually reversed. I'm expecting something similar to be happening here. So I have my zones marked here, and I'm not really personally trying to take a trade unless we get back into this support level. This is definitely a demand zone right here. If we were to mark this off, this is definitely a demand area. So I could see something like this happening very early in the week, just hitting resistance and moving to the downside. That's just personally not a trade that I'm willing to take right now. If you were trying to take that trade, you would be taking it pretty much now or when it spikes back into this area. But that's not one that I'm looking for. I'm looking for a bigger retracement here. I want price to come back and retest this zone up here. So that would be lined up with the 38.2 on the fibs. Let's just adjust this so it actually makes sense. So that would be lined up with the 38.2, which is right here. It's also lined up with the 61.8. So I'm more looking in the 61.8 area actually than the 38.2. And then at that point, this is what the actual trade would look like. We'd be targeting this support level. And then we'd have a lot of room here to put our stops. We can put them all the way up here, which is above the high, or we can put them just above the 78.6. So then we have a 3.5 to 1 risk reward trade. So that's a trade personally that I'm looking for on GU. Obviously, it has a lot of room to move before it gets there. It'd have to come up 140 pips. So I would not consider this one to be high on the watch list for this week. So let's come over to USD Cad next. Let's bump up to the weekly time frame. Boom, right here. So on the weekly time frame, we can see that last week, well, one, we have our upper zone right here. So let's just zoom out. Why is this here? We have support. This one isn't as clean, but we have support, support, and then resistance, resistance, resistance. This is clearly a level of resistance up here. And as you see last week, we were fishing into this area, trying to find sellers, and it rejected it pretty harshly. So we have this huge wick. So I'm actually looking for some sort of reversal this week on USD Cad. As we come down to the 4-hour time frame, we're still definitely in a bullish trend on the 4-hour. And for those that don't see it, this is what I'm talking about. Price is making a bullish, market structure here. So this is very bullish, forming highs, higher low, retesting the highs 4 different times, forming consecutive higher lows, and it just pushed to the upside. So this is most likely what will happen if we just go in line with trends. You know, price will continue to accelerate back into that support level up there. And if that is the case, I mean, look how the gaps messed this up, because we would have been all the way down near our support level. And then this would have been a great area to take a trade, 40 pip stops, 200 pip TP. So about 5 to 1 risk reward there. But since it gapped up, you know, we don't really want to do anything with this. What we would want to see is price to come down, consolidate near the support level, and then you see like a little break and retest right there. So USD Cad, nothing doing on this one, at least right now. If it does manage to break this trend line right here, you should 100% be looking for sells, and you can sell easily into that level. So I'm always forecasting multiple ideas here. These are the two ideas that make the most sense to me. I'm not going to take a trade up here because the risk reward, although decent, we have 1,500, 150 pips to the upside, and then I'd have to throw stops around here. So it'd be around 85 to the downside. So if we were to take a buy, this is what it would look like. We would have to throw stops down in this area, and then we'd have to target up here. And as you can see, risk reward is not that great. You know, I really would want to target like right here, and it would only be a 1.5 risk reward trade. The reason I'm not putting stops like here is because the price can very easily come back down and test this support level and still go up, and then we would be out of the trade. So it's just not a good trade to get involved with. So USD Cad, gonna remain patient. If this thing just pushes to the upside right now, then that's fine. It's just not happening according to my rules. So next, let's go over to Gbp Jpy. So let's hop all the way up to the weekly time frame. So I'm starting on here, as you guys can see, on every single pair. And for those that attend these sessions, they know I'm always starting on the weekly. And the first thing I do is identify the levels. So here I've got resistance, support. We've got a ton of support in this area, and then price moved very aggressively to the downside. As you can see here, we've got some resistance. Doesn't quite meet this area, but it's definitely a lot more relevant over here. Resistance, resistance, resistance. 3 separate times it's hit this level and rejected it. And last week we got in on it on the Sunday market blitz. We took this trade right here and called to the downside. But keep in mind that overall, this is still bullish. This is bullish market structure here. You know, it most likely will push at some point to the upside. The reason that I've just been very confident in shorting at this level is price has not been above here since 2016. So it hasn't been above here in about 6 years. So that's just very significant. So it would take a lot to break above this level, and we'll see if it can. So coming down to the 4 hour, we can see that structure is bearish. And when I say that, I mean we had an uptrend and now we just pushed into a downtrend. And what we want to do always when we first break structure is we want to map out our Fibonacci. So I'm just going to put, this was a level that had broken. Then we're always looking for that first lower high. As we can see, we have a ton of support and resistance right in this area. And this lines up pretty much directly with our 61.8. So I'm going to be looking for a trade right in this area at 155, 500, right in that area. And then we're going to throw stops at, I'm going to throw our targets at -27. And then conservatively, we could throw stops all the way up here. And then more aggressively, we can bring stops right above the 78.6. And then that gives us about a 4-to-1 risk reward trade. Now look at where price currently is, right? I'm not, as you could see, I'm just forecasting what would be my best case scenario, my best trade, given what we have here. I'm not looking at this right now. You know, we know where it is. I would need price to come up here for me personally to take a trade, because that's what my strategy entails. If price just falls from this level, that's completely fine. I don't really care. I really want price to come here because that's what trading my system would look like. So that's GJ. I think we're going to get this one during this week. I believe it's going to push up and we're going to get an entry. Whether we get profit on it or not, you know, we'll see. But yeah, that's GJ for this week. So let's move this one up. And let's cover NZD USD. So coming up to the weekly time frame, as always, let's take a look at where are our levels on the weekly and why are they here. So weekly time frame, let's zoom out as always, and we've got a ton of structure previously at this area up here. So we've got resistance, resistance, support, support, all resistance, and then we can see more recently we have support and resistance right there, and then we have another level down here. This level is based on support, resistance, resistance, and as you guys can see, support. So I'm drawing these at areas where there's multiple touches. They're very significant. We're all the way on the weekly time frame, so we know how strong they are. Now let's zoom in a little bit and let's just use common sense here. Structure is in a downtrend. Weekly time frame, downtrend. We're retesting support right now. Last week formed this wick to the upside, so we retested this upper zone, rejected it. So we're just in a very weak lower time frame uptrend right now. We're just climbing up and finding a lot of resistance every time we hit a level. So you can see here, resistance. Here we push up, boom, pulls all the way back down. So what I'm expecting is for some sort of reversal here to the downside. And we have this 67,200 area. This is a perfect area to short from. So what I did was we just used our simple methodology here when it comes to market structure. So anyone that's taken the course or, you know, studied market structure at all, it's very simple. We've got an uptrend right here, and then you got a break of structure once price breaks this level. And then you're always looking to enter on either the retest of this area or wherever it ends up rejecting it, as long as it doesn't break this previous high. This is always going to be where you're trying to enter into your trade. Boom. Right here. Right. So what we want to do, let's see, with where we are right now is I'm going to leave this on. So guys, what we're looking at right here is pretty much the same thing. We're in an uptrend, right? We're making this higher low, and then we had this little pullback, and then we made this new high, and then what happened? We broke support, we broke this level, and now we're looking for the first rejection and that first lower high. And that's why this area looks like a great area to sell from. So if we just hide all of this, boom, and let's mark this down. Doesn't this look very similar? This to this, same thing, right? A little different with the structure, but same thing here. We had a break, and now we're looking for price to reject an area where we have multiple confluences, and we're always going to fib. So we've got our fibs on here. So right here, we've got 61.8, we've got resistance, right? All we need is some sort of rejection of this area, and then this is going to signal an entry for our system. So look out for this one. I think this is going to play out this week on NZD USD. And what I like is this week I have a lot of diversity with my ideas. NZD USD, I'm looking to short. If we go back to GU, we're looking for this thing to go long first and then short. And that kind of lines up with NU as well. We're looking for this thing to come up about 0.75%. We're looking for this one to come up a little bit more, about 1%. UCAD, this one, we're looking to come down. So UCAD, we're looking to come down before it comes up, and that would be about 0.5%. So all of our ideas kind of line up, and then you have GJ, which is a little bit different, but relatively the same, looking to come up and then come down. So everything we're looking to move in one direction before we actually trigger our entries. So that's why we don't really have any entries on the call. So this week I did break down NAS 100. I'm going to start covering this one a little bit more. It's going to be at first a little bit sketchy with the analysis, but as I start to cover a little bit more, it'll get better. So on the weekly time frame, we've got resistance all in this area. And then as you can see, last week formed this like inverted hammer or this hammer candle. We have this huge wick to the downside telling me that we hit a level of support all the way down here. We can clearly see this is a support level. Look at these wicks, retested it literally right to the wick right there. So this is definitely a support level. I'm just going to mark this down as well right there. So as you can see, we wicked same level. And now we are just kind of consolidating. Let's go down to the 4 hour and take a look. So now we pulled back up right at a resistance level. So personally, right on the 4 hour, this looks to be very bearish. This is definitely bearish structure. But with how that weekly candle closed, I am personally making the assumption that price is going to move back to the upside. And I would only take a trade if it breaks above this 1388.6 level. And then we get a retest and go to the upside. If you guys are still on the side of being bearish, right now is the time to take a trade from this area, target this previous low. You can put stops pretty much like this. And that would be your trade idea. So this is trade idea number one. I personally am not trying to be as bearish on this. I'm more trying to wait for this second trade, which would be kind of like this, depending where the market actually pulls back to, but it would be right in this area. So that's NAS 100 on that one. So let's go ahead and move on. Last but not least, I'm going to cover BTC. So BTC has been respecting levels quite nicely. I had this marked out earlier. So pretty much let's come back up to the weekly, just see where are we at. So we've been covering this one now for quite some time. Weekly time frame, clearly it's in a downtrend, right? Boom, boom, right? Have this evening star, which is a bearish confirmation. We've got this huge level of resistance at 40,000. So we got resistance, resistance, support right there. So, you know, last week we did have this spinning top, which is a reversal candle, but as long as we are below this 39,000, 40,000 level, I'm definitely looking for sells. So let's go ahead here. Yeah, so as long as we're below here, I'm definitely looking for sells. This obviously is in a downtrend on the 4 hour time frame. We're right at the 38.2. So I mean, this would be a decent trade right now, right? We're using this resistance level to take our entry. Whenever it bounces off this area, we're trying to take sells, and then we're just targeting the lower level at 32. This would give us a 3-to-1 risk reward. And then to the flip side, if this thing goes really bullish, this is how we would take the opposite side. We'd wait for it to break above the resistance, always wait for the retest. And then first we'd be targeting here, and then we'd be moving up time frames and trying to find some higher levels here. But it would be target 1 would be here, target 2 would be here, and then target 3 would be all the way up here. So we'd have a couple different TPs that we could set in that instance. So guys, that's all I'm going to cover for this week. BTC, NAS 100, USD CAD, GU, NU, and GJ. Like Nick said, all of this analysis is posted inside of the Telegram and inside of the Discord as well. If you guys aren't in there, I 100% suggest you guys joining. I posted an update. I'm just going to share my screen again. I posted an update inside of the Telegram just before this call. So it was a little update on what we're doing. So you guys have probably been seeing, we're posting the FX book results from the rapid signals inside of the Telegram at the end of the month. So every single month we're connecting an account to the rapid signals, and we built our own copier. So every time a signal comes out, it gets taken in the account and then it's tracked on my FX book using their live functionality. So past 2 months, we've made 15% in January and then 25% or 24% last month. This month, we're going to be connecting it to 200K FTMO accounts along with just some demo accounts just to track all the results as well. So if you want to get inside of the rapid signals, it currently is on sale. It's, I believe, 40% off right now, 40% off. So it's normally $75. Right now it's 45 per month. So definitely take advantage of the sale if you guys are interested in getting involved. And we're also doing the lifetime membership sale. So that one is going to end tomorrow. It's currently 65% off, normally $9.99. So if you're interested in getting in on the Forex League membership, join now. It's $349. You get the signals, the full course, the trade copier, funding, everything like that. So guys, if you are interested, definitely join. If not, send us a message if you require support, anything like that. And yeah, I'll get this posted on YouTube after this. And then next week we'll be back to go over the analysis, see how we did in the signals, and just get the month started.
Yep, just another week. Right, guys? So that's it. Yeah, it's a lot. We covered a lot, got a lot going on. But yeah, guys, enjoy the rest of the weekend. Have a good weekend. Reach out if you guys need anything. That's like the most important thing, right? We're here. Reach out to us. Plenty of channels that are open for you guys to communicate. So hopefully we'll see you guys soon.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like Nick said, enjoy the week, everybody. And yeah, best of luck. Happy trading.
Hell yeah. Peace, guys.
Peace out, everybody.